Sensory capacities. On his visit to my class, Joshua looked wide-eyed at my bright pink blouse and turned to the sound of his mother's voice. During feedings, he let Yolanda know through his sucking rhythm that he prefers the taste of breast milk to a bottle of plain water. Clearly, Joshua has some well-developed sensory capacities. In the following section, we explore the newborn's responsiveness to touch, taste, smell, sound, and visual stimulation. Touch. In our discussion of preterm infants, we saw that touch helps stimulate early physical growth. As we will see in Chapter 6, it is vital for emotional development as well. Therefore, it is not surprising that sensitivity to touch emerges early prenatally and is well developed at birth, as the reflexes listed in Table 3.4 on page 101 reveal. Newborns even use touch to investigate their world. When small objects are placed in their palms, they can distinguish shape, prism versus cylinder for example, and texture such as smooth versus rough, as indicated by the tendency to hold on longer to an object with an unfamiliar shape or texture than to a familiar object. At birth, infants are highly sensitive to pain. If male newborns are circumcised, anesthetic is sometimes not used because of the risk of giving drugs to a very young infant. Babies often respond with a high-pitched, stressful cry and a dramatic rise in heart rate, blood pressure, palm sweating, pupil dilation, and muscle tension. Brain imaging research suggests that because of central nervous system immaturity, preterm babies, particularly males, feel the pain of a medical injection especially intensely. Certain local anesthetics for newborns ease the pain of these procedures. As a supplement to pain-relieving medication, offering a nipple that delivers a sugar solution is also helpful. It quickly reduces crying and discomfort in young babies, preterm and full-term alike. Breast milk may be especially effective. Even the smell of the milk of the baby's mother reduces infant distress to a routine blood test heel stick more effectively than the odor of another mother's milk or of formula. And combining sweet liquid with gentle holding by the parent lessens pain even more. Research on infant mammals indicates that physical touch releases endorphins, pain-killing chemicals in the brain. Allowing a baby to endure severe pain overwhelms the nervous system with stress hormones. The result is heightened pain sensitivity, sleep disturbances, feeding problems, and difficulty calming down when upset. Taste and smell. Facial expressions reveal that newborns can distinguish several basic tastes. Like adults, they relax their facial muscles in response to sweetness, purse the lips when the taste is sour, and show an arch-like mouth opening when it is bitter. Similarly, certain odor preferences are present at birth. For example, the smell of bananas or chocolate causes a pleasant facial expressions, whereas the odor of rotten eggs makes the infant frown. These reactions are important for survival. The food that best supports the infant's early growth is the sweet-tasting milk of the mother's breast. Not until 4 months do babies prefer a salty taste to plain water, a change that may prepare them to accept solid foods. During pregnancy, the amniotic fluid is rich in tastes and smells that vary with the mother's diet. Early experiences that influence newborns' preferences. In a study carried out in the Alsatian region of France, where anise is frequently used to flavor foods, researchers tested newborns for their reaction to the anise odor. The mothers of some babies had regularly consumed anise during the last 2 weeks of pregnancy. The other mothers had never consumed it. When presented with the anise odor on the day of birth, the babies of non-anise consuming mothers were far more likely to turn away with a negative facial expression. These different reactions were still apparent 4 days later, even though all mothers had refrained from consuming anise during this time. Young infants will readily learn to prefer a taste that at first evoked either a negative or a neutral response. Bottle-fed newborns allergic to cow's milk who are given soy or other vegetable-based substitutes, often typically very sour and bitter tasting, soon prefer it to regular formula. When first given solid food several months later, these infants display an unusual liking for bitter-tasting cereals. This taste preference is still evident at ages 4 to 5 years, in more positive responses to foods with sour and bitter tastes than shown by age-mates without early vegetable-based formula exposure. In mammals, including humans, the sense of smell, in addition to playing an important role in feeding, helps mothers and babies identify each other. At 2 to 4 days of age, breastfed babies prefer the odors of their own mother's breast and underarm to those of an unfamiliar lactating mother. And both breast and bottle-fed 3 to 4-day-olds orient more and display more mouthing to the smell of unfamiliar human milk than to formula milk, indicating that, even without postnatal exposure, the odor of human milk is more attractive to newborns. Newborns' dual attraction to the odors of their mother and of breast milk helps them locate an appropriate food source and, in the process, begin to distinguish their caregiver from other people. Hearing. Newborn infants can hear a wide variety of sounds, sensitivity that improves greatly over the first few months. At birth, infants prefer complex sounds such as noises and voices to pure tones, and the babies only a few days old can tell the difference between a variety of sound patterns, a series of tones arranged in ascending versus descending order, tone sequences with a rhythmic downbeat, as in music, versus those without, utterances with 2 versus 3 syllables, the stress patterns of words like ma versus ma, happy-sounding speech as opposed to speech with negative or neutral emotional qualities, and even 2 languages spoken by the same bilingual speaker, as long as these languages differ in their rhythmic features, for example, French versus Russian. Young infants listen longer to human speech than structurally similar non-speech sounds, and they can detect the sounds of any human language. Newborns make fine-grained distinctions among many speech sounds. For example, when given a nipple that turns on a recording of the ba sounds, babies suck vigorously and then slow down as the novelty wears off. When the sound switches to ga, sucking picks up, indicating that infants detect this subtle difference. Using this method, researchers have found only a few sounds that newborns cannot discriminate. Their ability to perceive sounds not found in their own language is more precise than an adult's. These capacities reveal that the baby is marvelously prepared for the awesome task of acquiring language. Listen carefully to yourself the next time you talk to a young baby. You will probably speak in ways that highlight important parts of the speech stream. Use a slow, high-pitched, expressive voice with a rising tone at the ends of phrases and sentences, and a pause before continuing. Adults probably communicate this way with infants because they notice that babies are more attentive when they do so. Indeed, newborns prefer speech with these characteristics. They will also suck more in the nipple to hear a recording of their mother's voice than that of an unfamiliar woman, and to hear their native language as opposed to a foreign language. These preferences result from hearing the muffled sounds of the mother's voice before birth. Vision. Vision is the least developed of the newborn baby's senses. Visual structures in both the eye and the brain are not yet fully formed. For example, cells in the retina, the membrane lingering the inside of the eye that captures light and transforms it into messages that are sent to the brain, are not as mature or densely packed as they will be in several months. The optic nerve that relays these messages and visual centers in the brain that receive them will not be adult-like for several years. And muscles of the lens, which permits us to adjust our visual focus to varying distances, are weak. As a result, newborns cannot focus their eyes well, and their visual acuity, or fineness of discrimination, is limited. At birth, infants perceive objects at a distance of 20 feet about as clearly as adults do at 600 feet. In addition, unlike adults who see nearby objects most clearly, newborn babies see unclearly across a wide range of distances. As a result, images such as the parent's face, even from close up, look quite blurred. Although they cannot yet see well, newborns actively explore their environments by scanning it for interesting sights and tracking moving objects. However, their eye movements are slow and inaccurate. Joshua's captivation with my pink blouse reveals that he is attracted to bright objects, but despite their preference for colored over gray stimuli, newborn babies are not yet good at discriminating colors. It will take about 4 months for color vision to become adult-like.